Alright guys, do you want to know something that's pretty freaking annoying? Well, as you probably know, I want to become a famous game developer or even just good at programming in general. But to that, there is of course a catch or something that's just a little big, huge, ginormous problem that I cannot fix. And I'll get into the huge problem in just a moment. So right now I use C# as my programming language. Well, that wasn't always the programming language that I was using. Before, I was using Game Maker Studio 2. It is very good. If you want to go into 2D or pixelated game development, Game Maker Studio is definitely what you should get into. Which, if you look at my subscriber count, of course this video isn't sponsored. Otherwise, I would be out of my mind energetic on this video right now. But that's not the point. The point is, I used to use Game Maker Studio 2, and what that has to do with this problem, it doesn't really, make the problem any worse. It's just that, I was on Game Maker Studio 2. I was I was making a game. I thought I was doing pretty well. Then I was like, this won't really get me anywhere. I might get a couple downloads and stuff, but I won't actually become a full-on blown game developer or someone who can professionally make games even if he just switches to 3D or anything. No. And that's where C# comes in. Well, I guess not yet, but we'll get to that eventually. Before Game Maker, I was using Python. I used plenty of programming languages. The whole reason that I actually wanted to go into game development was so I could make an Undertale fan game. That's how determined I was for Undertale, that I would just learn programming for months just to make a simple little fan game that a couple YouTubers might see. And that's where I thought to myself, should I really learn programming? Just go into all programming tutorials, even a programming camp, specifically to make a fan game? No, I should not. Which is why I asked my brother, alright, so I really want to learn programming and stuff, and he learned a little bit of programming. He wasn't that good. And he said that a good programming language to learn, that's really good. It's a little bit difficult to learn, but it would get the job done. He said it was Python. So I tried it for a bit, but I really couldn't because the tutorial that I went on, well, they had an older version of Python, and the newer version had, a couple of updates, which made it where I couldn't actually use it. Then I said, wait a minute. What programming language was actually used to make Undertale itself? So then I searched it up and it said that was Game Maker Studio 2. So then I smashed some keys on my keyboard on Google and found out that it was free. So I was like, well, if I'm going to go into Undertale fan games, then I think that this is what I should be learning. So I tried to learn it on this good tutorial by Sean Spalding. It was on a 2D platformer. I was like, yeah, that could work to help me with the coding and stuff. Turned out that Game Maker Studio 2 is decently easy to learn, but it can get pretty difficult. There's a lot of stuff to remember. So eventually I was like, okay, this is just, the only thing I know is how to set up keys, how to set up if statements, and how to make it where the guy would mirror what key you pressed. And that was by part, 7 of his tutorial series. And the amount of code other than just if statements and setting up keys is insane. I was going nowhere. And of course, with my hilarious humor, my favorite YouTuber was Danny. I searched up what programming language he uses for his 3D games, and it turned out he was using C Sharp. So that's where I am now. I started using C Sharp. It's so much easier to learn. Like, I actually love C Sharp so much. I specifically went into C Sharp so that I could go into Unity, and it sure helped me, like, a lot. All I've really done so far is, like, setting up text, like, talking to yourself, I guess, because you're talking to whatever code you wrote. But it's so easy to learn, and by, like, about part 2 or 3 in Sean's tutorial, I just had no idea what was going on. And it's not his fault for making a bad tutorial, because his tutorial was actually amazing if you want to learn Game Maker. It's just Game Maker itself that I thought was just too hard for me, because I am not good at anything hard. And you may be saying, well, it's hard. No one's good at it. But I'm, like, so impatient that I was like, nah, I'm good. I'm done. So, blah, blah, blah. I go into C Sharp. I got a tutorial from Brackies on how to make the text thing. And it was, like, mainly, it wasn't just, like, how to make a text game. It was just learning code. It wasn't learning how to make the games. It's how to make the code for the games. So, in this tutorial that it's telling you about the text and, like, everything in it, but it was also talking about the code, which, if you were to just learn off of that tutorial, you could actually possibly figure out how to make a game, because it's, like, talking about, like, for loops. It's like if statements, except it's just weird, I guess. Sorry, that's just a terrible explanation. Basically, if I were to, like, you know, I was into if statements, I'm like, oh yeah, I could go into a for loop easily, because it's just like it. And I went to a for loop, I would say, you know, maybe I'm not meant for programming. But then I went on into his tutorial, and when he explained for loops, it just all came clear now. It just made sense all of a sudden. So, basically, I figured out a little bit of C Sharp. I haven't finished the tutorial yet, but I figured out a bit of C Sharp. But now for the actual problem, the main plot of my story of programming. I was like, okay, well, I mean, this is very good. It helps me, but I need to actually figure out how to put the C Sharp scripts into Unity. I need to figure out how to make sprites, which none of his tutorial videos, I'm pretty sure, actually talked about. I need to, you know, figure out tiling. I need to figure out, like, walls and everything, collision. And that tutorial just wasn't doing it. So I went to his Unity tutorial, and it made no sense whatsoever, because it was from about, I don't know, 8 years ago from that other tutorial. And I was like, well, you gotta be kidding me. There's gotta be Unity tutorials anywhere. And every single one from this year was just absolutely crap. None of them helped me. Like, and then I went into the older ones where you have to download, like, the older editors. I don't know how to set up the older editors, so it didn't work. And there's just so much different in Unity from the older ones, and I'm just like, my mind is blown, except it's blown because it's not working right now. So I just need a simple tutorial on how to put C Sharp in Unity and, like, all of the, you know, basics and stuff, so that I can actually learn. So basically, how to resolve this problem, I'm not gonna have many viewers on this video, like, at all, but if any of you actually can, like, link tutorials in the chat, or, like, say you, like, put in YouTubers in the chat that make really good tutorials, that would help me exponentially. Like, I really need something to work here. Otherwise, I can't have my dream of becoming a huge, or at least just a game developer. I just want to make games for me or my friends or anything, like multiplayer games I can play with my friends, or just create games in general for me so that I can like play the dream games I've been looking on my PlayStation App Store for way too long, and PC App Store too. Except PC can actually find some of my dream games sometimes. But yeah, if you guys know any tutorials that like really helped you or anything, then that would really help. Please link them in the chat, or even like any like I don't know, even programming camps. I don't even care, just anything that would help me with Unity and C#. But yeah, that's the big problem that I would really like help with. So yeah, just any YouTube videos in the chat linked, please. And this was a really long video for just trying to talk about a problem. But yeah, it's just that I really need this. So please help me out here, guys. Bye bye.